So this is a story that I really look forward to telling you because this is essentially the origin story. This is where it all began, where I went from building Formula One race boats to building guitars. And how it all began was way back in 1994. I was at college studying polymer engineering, and myself and formal education just never really went hand in hand. I always preferred making things and doing stuff by hand. And so learning all the science and the chemistry and the physics at college, it was a struggle. So an opportunity came to leave early and go on a program to the USA. It was an exchange program where people were being taken from companies in Ireland and put into companies in the USA, and specific St. Louis for this one, to learn the American way. So my dad put my name forward for his company, which was Kestrel Toys. We made children's outdoor play equipment using fiberglass and steel. And it was an opportunity for me to go over there and learn some more technologically advanced ways of doing composite and fiberglass work. So they found a company for me to work in. Initially it was supposed to be Kenworth trucks, and that seemed like a really good idea. And then ended up getting placed with a company that was making hot tubs, and it wasn't the most incredible place to work. It wasn't anything more advanced than what we were doing at home in Ireland, and I wasn't really learning anything. So I must have been a little bit vocal about the whole situation, because the owner of the company, he decided that if I wasn't content there, then I should just not be there. So he came to me on a Friday and essentially he sacked me. I think it's the only time I've ever been sacked from a job, just about the only time I've not worked for myself as well, but I got sacked. That happened on the Friday. On the Sunday, I went along to a boat show and I started asking around about boats, any boat builders, because the origins of our fiberglass work was my dad started making boats after he repaired his own boat that had sank, and I'll tell you that story someday. But so I wanted to maybe find somebody that made boats. I thought that'd be a great place to learn some really cool skills and technology. And so they told me about this company called Seebold Boats. And I thought Seebold Boats just made pleasure boats. I didn't really put it all together. But the organizers of our trip arranged an interview with the owner of the company. And I arrived at the factory, and the first thing I saw was the Bud Light race truck parked outside. And it had Bud Light up the side and pictures of the boats and Bill Seebold, world champion, up the side. And I was like, what is this? It just blew my mind. And I'm a young 20-year-old just, coming over from Ireland. And here I am at a race shop, place that manufactured race boats. And I walked into the office and I started to look around the wall, and there was all these plaques around the wall, world champion, world champion, world champion. And I said, what is this? This guy's something really powerful, because a few months previous I had watched powerboat racing in Belfast. First time I ever saw it, I just thought it was the most incredible sport in the whole world. I spent 3 days standing in the rain watching these race boats, and here I was now standing in the office of the world champion. So I had an interview with Bill. He started asking me about my skills and technology and knowledge, and discovered I worked with fiberglass before. So he had just had somebody leave the company, and there was an opportunity to have somebody come in that had some fiberglass knowledge. So he gave me a job. But a job wasn't really enough for me, because it was an hour away from where we were living, and there was no buses running that route, and it was, how was I going to get there? So we went around all the other businesses in the area, and I found a lady called Judy who lived beside where I lived and worked just next door, and Judy agreed to bring me to work every day. So Judy gave me this incredible opportunity to get a lift to work, and I'm forever grateful, and I've been forever in contact with Judy, and really she made something really special possible, and I really thank her for that. But I went in and I started working in this environment where Bill Seebold was the world champion. His two sons, Mike and Tim, were second and third in the world at the time. It was like a family at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. And it was just such an incredible place to be and to be around and hearing all these stories, and it was just so inspiring to me. But they put me to work, and everything they gave me to do, I just did with a smile on my face. I loved everything about it. Didn't matter if I was just standing on the side of a boat, if I was sweeping the floors, whatever. Just to be in that environment just blew my mind. So I soaked everything up. Everything they asked me to do, I did with a smile, and I learned. And I think Bill seen something in me. He seen a spark there that I really wanted to get something out of this trip. So he kind of took me under his wing, and he used to, talk to me and give me advice, and he used to take me to lunch with him every day, and that was just like the most incredible thing, that he would want to take me along and take me for lunch and hear my stories, and so we became friends. But it was during that trip, a friend of mine loaned me her guitar. She had an Ovation, and the Ovation guitars have the fiberglass back, that bowl back. And I started looking at that, and was interested in the fact that it wasn't a fully wooden guitar. And I wasn't a very good guitar player at the time, but I was really interested in the whole structure of them and how they worked. And I started thinking about that, and so that was one seed that was planted. And then on a flight to Danville, Virginia, for Thanksgiving, to go and stay with some family friends, I bought a guitar magazine. And on that flight, I was reading that guitar magazine, and I started to get this idea: what if I was to try and build a guitar with carbon fiber? And it was just a crazy idea. And I put the magazine down, and I went on about my life, and had a great Thanksgiving with our friends, and it was just a little moment. But I can remember that moment of when I first thought maybe I could build a carbon fiber guitar. But the seed was set, and I came back to Ireland after, I think it was only 6 months that I was working there at that place. But I came back with this enthusiasm that I had to do something really special with my life. When you work in an environment like that, where you're working with world champions and people that were making things to the absolute top of the sport, it makes you really kind of want to do something special. And I came back, and I suppose I was back doing more regular work here, just standard fiberglass work, rather than working with high-tech composites and carbon fiber that I was working with, building the safety cells and the cockpits. And I was really uncontent, and I started to talk to my parents about the idea of going back to St. Louis, and I talked to Bill about it, and I was going to go back over. So I applied for my visa to go back to the USA, and I thought I was going to go back and build race boats. And the day that I sent off my application for the visa was actually the day that I started going out with Kim. And so my life took a very quick change. I fell in love. Not long after, I ended up getting engaged. We got married a year later, and I never went to St. Louis. But what happened after that was my mother got ill with cancer. Unfortunately passed away of cancer quite suddenly, just a few months after we got married. And that following year, I just needed something to find a little bit of contentment in. And it was a year of turmoil. It was a very, very difficult place to be. But that's when I started to think back to what I was doing in St. Louis, and I started to think about that idea to build a guitar. And I just needed something. I needed something for myself to throw myself into. And so that year I built my first guitar in 1998. And it was just something that was just a hobby, it was a passion, it was a distraction, it was something to just throw myself into. But it was when I was building that guitar that I started to remember the words of a conversation with Bill. And the words of those conversation was really talking to Bill about how he became world champion. And what Bill told me was, anybody has an opportunity to become a world champion, but everybody has a set of skills, a set of opportunities that can allow them to be a world champion at something. And the key is to find what your set of skills are. Find what the pieces of your puzzle are. And I remember those words, and he told me about how his opportunity was growing up on the river and having a father who was a powerboat racer, and he was able to just race boats, so he had that opportunity. He said then you have to find your passion, and he drove boats and he discovered he loved it. So you got to find where your skill is. He drove boats and he discovered he was really good at it, and he said then you've got to find what you can be dedicated at. And he said he was able to be dedicated for all his life and to being a raceboat driver. So he had that unique set of opportunities and skills and passion that allowed him to be world champion. And the first time that I built a guitar, then I started to think about this. I remember those words coming back, and I thought, well, okay, maybe that's for me. This is my thing. And for me, I had this opportunity. I had the family business where I had the opportunity to have the tools that I needed and the materials that I needed and a factory space to work in to try and build guitars. I found that I had a specific set of skills. I had this knowledge in composites and a flair for art and design and craft that seemed to really fit with the guitar. I guess I discovered that I had a passion for it, and the one thing that right throughout my life I've had is a passion for guitars. I can remember almost every guitar that I've ever seen, and I don't have a great memory, but something about guitars has just been there inside me. And then I had the dedication to stick with it, and so I started to really think about these words that Bill had talked to me about, and I thought, well, that's my thing. This is my thing, and I think I'm really grateful for that conversation, because you know, you really think you see somebody who has taken those opportunities and taken them to that level. And that's what kept me on the endurance path, because I couldn't get to where we are now with Emerald guitars without that endurance. You know, it was a crazy idea, but it was nothing until I put in 20 years of hard work to develop it and redevelop it and take it to where it is now. But it all came in St. Louis. It all started from race boats. And who knew that the technology that you could build a race boat with would turn out to be the technology that you could build a guitar with. So Bill, I'm forever grateful of the opportunity that you give me, but way more grateful for the inspiration that you give me. Thanks, Bill.